So we'll go on to Steve Crane at Business Link Japan and also at Export to Japan. Steve's in the UK, but we're really looking forward to seeing you back in Japan for the first time in a long time next week. So over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Mark, and it's great to be here today to be part of this webinar, and looking forward to hearing a bit more from everybody listening in on the Q&A session a little bit later. In this section, I'm going to initially kick off by posing this question of why Japan, because I believe some of you listening in today may be looking at Japan for the first time and thinking about entering the market for the first time. So I want to share with you a few of the thoughts I had going back, it was over 20 years ago now when I set my first company up in Japan, and some of the sort of thoughts that have come to me over that time about why you should consider the Japanese market. And obviously I'm aiming to give a balanced view here. So on the positive side, it is all one language spoken in this market. It's one culture, one quite unique business culture. It's one huge lucrative market, and I'll give a bit of an indication on a subsequent slide about how big the market opportunity is. There's pretty much one business practice. Of course, there are some small nuances region to region, but in general, it's one business practice. It's a country where it's very stable with very good business ethics. And many companies also use it as a strategy of a springboard onto tackling other markets in the region and around the world. We've worked with a lot of companies that have sort of had the view if they can get it right in Japan, they will be able to get it right anywhere else around the world. So there's some of the positive reasons why you absolutely should be considering the Japanese market. Some of the considerations you should take in on the other side, there's no doubt it's a very complex market and it's a very different market. Many of the ways that we do business in markets in other parts of the world that can be similar to how we do business are often quite different in Japan and sometimes quite the opposite. So it does take time and it requires investment to learn and to develop and to grow that business. And therefore it is definitely a market that requires long-term investment. It's not really one of those markets where you can look to get a quick return. You certainly have to have a long-term investment strategy of your budget and your human resources. If we have a look at the current UK-Japan trade overview, so total trade in goods from the UK to, or between the UK and Japan is just over 24.6 billion. This I put a note at the bottom there. This is up to the end of Q2 2022, and that's an increase of 139 million based on the previous 12-month period, which is an encouraging sign. Total exports to Japan were 11.9 billion and imports from Japan 12.7 billion. And when I first saw those statistics, I was quite pleasantly surprised in a way, because I just imagined that we perhaps imported a lot more than we exported to Japan. But you can see the numbers are actually pretty even. So we are good at exporting, and we're exporting pretty much as we import. Another interesting little bit of data to share with you, it is approximately 50%, pretty even, between goods and services that we export. So it's not just actually products we're exporting, we're very good at exporting services to Japan as well. To sort of give you a bit of context, there are around 10,000 UK VAT registered businesses exporting goods to Japan at the moment. So it is a complex, tricky market, but you're amongst good company. There are just over, I think, 10,000 other UK companies that have started that journey and have worked out how to export to Japan. If we look at some of the key learning points, and I do need to run through this fairly quickly in the terms of the time we have available at this webinar, but it's just sharing a few thoughts and a few headlines with you of things to think about when you're looking at the Japanese market. And of course, a number of these apply to any export market around the world, but I think in particular, a number of these points are really, really important when you're looking at the Japanese market. It's so important to take time to learn the business culture. I mentioned that it is very different and very unique, and without putting that time and effort in, it's going to be very difficult for you to do business there. And there's lots of ways of doing that. There are great resources online. There are all sorts of webinars, a bit like today, and other resources out there that you can pick up and learn the business culture from. And linked to that, doing your research into the market is absolutely crucial. There's no doubt that Japan is one of those markets that you cannot really take an approach of, I'm going to learn by getting on and doing it, because if you take the wrong strategy and you go down the wrong route and you get into partnership with the wrong partners and things, it's very, very difficult to unpick and to pivot and to change. So doing your research up front, making sure the opportunity is right for you, working out your right market entry strategy, working out the right partners to do that with, are all really important things to do up front before you start, tactically implementing any of your Japan strategy. Building relationships is crucial in Japan, and something that we can really underestimate. And it's something that I've learned about the way Japanese people do business. The strength of human relationships and the investment they put into getting to know people and building trust and building relationships is so important. Quality is absolutely crucial as well. That's not just quality of your product or your service. It's quality about the packaging, about the way you dispatch and your channel. It's quality about the way you behave yourself and your team behave, and the level of customer service that you give. All of those elements of your business is really important. The quality expectation in Japan is really, really high. Hard sales mean no sales, so that approach just doesn't work in Japan. The customer is king very much, and so you cannot take a pushy hard sales approach. That's part of kind of learning the unique business culture. Being aware of customer service levels is really, really important. I always find it fascinating when visitors come to Japan for the first time. It's so alluring to see the level of customer service that we get as soon as you arrive at the airport, with the way that you're treated and greeted, and going to restaurants and coffee shops. The service level is incredible and we all love it. But it's a sobering thought to think that is actually the norm in Japan. That kind of service level is what Japanese consumers expect on a daily basis. So we have to be aware of that, and we have to work out how we can match, if not exceed, those customer service levels. The long-term investment strategy I mentioned, there are certainly examples of companies that can get quick wins and get revenue flowing quickly, and we've got lots of case studies of that. But in general, it is a market where you absolutely need to have a long-term strategy. Take great care in selecting your partners, your representatives, your distributors. If you go and employ people locally, be really careful. Don't fall into the trap of signing up with the first company you meet that look like an interesting one and look like they could give you all the answers. Often that's not the right partner, and put your time and effort into researching and making sure you do your due diligence and you go with the right partner, because again, it's not easy to change that if you make a mistake. And put down roots and demonstrate commitment to the market. That's another crucial ingredient that we look at when we see the companies that have really been successful versus those that struggle. And there are various ways of doing that that I can go to in more detail in the Q&A if you're interested. Okay. An update on the current situation in Japan. So we all know we're sort of coming out of this very difficult, challenging last few years we've all suffered. And it's good to see some of these sort of areas of recovery coming on. And certainly in Japan, I've put that headline there, Japan is very much open for business again now, which is wonderful news. We have just been involved in 3 trade visits, trade missions out to Japan, where we've taken delegates of UK companies out to Japan. One of those was in the food and drink sector. And it was run by the southwest region of the UK. They took 30 companies from food, drink and agriculture. It was a bit of a mega mission, and they did an amazing job. And more recently, we've worked closely with Innovate UK to take 2 tech-orientated missions out to Japan. Last week, there was a 5G delegation that went out, and a month or so ago, there was a group from battery technologies. And it's been very interesting to work on those visit programs, and they're some of the first visit programs that have gone on since Japan has started to relax its view on foreigners coming in. And I'm delighted to say that we got a very, very warm welcome when we were out there. The Japanese companies were pleased to see us. It wasn't easy. There was extra detail of discussion we had to go into, and we had to be aware of social distancing situations, you know, the size of meeting rooms, very clear guidelines on the number of people that would be there, the local rules about wearing masks and respecting the situation with testing and things like that. But in the bigger picture, all three of them were very, very successful business programs, and we managed to put great programs together with lots of visits to Japanese companies, and we certainly got a very warm welcome from the companies we visited, and they seemed quite relieved to be having visitors again and having international discussions. So some really good signs from those 3 early trade visits that we've been involved in. One trend that we did see during the lockdown over the last couple of years was obviously much more of a move on the Japanese side to accept online meetings. And as many of you may know, traditionally, Japan has always been a market where it's been very much down to face-to-face meetings and relationship building and trust building. And that's pretty important for foreign companies when we're trying to do business in Japan, in such a risk-averse country. So there was definitely a trend to go online, and we are seeing a continuation of that. But we are also seeing some movement back to the face-to-face meetings again, and the need to do that and the importance of doing that. In terms of ease of entry and accessibility, so you may have heard already that the Japanese government have now gone to the next level of making it easier to go into the country. So the requirements around visas and entry have been relaxed further now, which is great news. And one fabulous bit of news is that British Airways have resumed their direct flights. I think as of 13th of November, they are now flying on a daily basis to Japan and doing direct flights. And from what I've seen, that's actually made a really big difference. And one major difference is the actual cost of flights has drastically come down. And I'm heading over to Japan at the end of November, and the flights we were able to get for me and a couple of colleagues are so much more competitively priced compared to flights a month or 2 ago when they were just pretty astronomical. So the cost of getting there is coming down as more opportunities and more airlines come back online. And of course, that will have a knock-on effect with cargo as well, and it will bring some of the costs of shipping down too, for shipping product over, which has been a little bit of a barrier over the last few months as well. I mentioned about the acceptance of visits and the willingness to meet also. I'd like to just move on to talk a little bit about some further resources and further information that's available to you. If you're not aware of it already, I'd like to bring your attention to this platform called Export to Japan, which is a digital platform established almost 10 years now since we first set it up. And it's a free platform with lots of resources, case studies, events, webinars, missions, podcasts, lots of information on going into the market. A lot of the information is just free for anyone that can navigate onto the site, but we also have a members program as well, where you can very simply enter a little bit of information and you become a member, and then you get access to premium content that's behind the members gate, and you'll get additional information about missions and activities that are going on around Japan. It's all run on a not-for-profit basis, and DIT are one of the key partners, along with the Chamber of Commerce and British Airways, and so there's no cost implications at all for anyone. We've got 12,000 members that have already joined the platform, and to date we've had over 600,000 visitors to the site. Just to give you a very quick introduction to how to navigate the site, there are basically 4 ways into the site: search by industry, a step-by-step guide, a partner program, and then the ability to send in any inquiries that you may have. If we look at the search by industry option, this will be the way you can go in if you want to look at all the content we've got on the site related to your particular sector. So if you're from the food and drink sector, for example, you can click on that button there and it will pop up and tell you all the latest content we've got on food and drink. And these buttons you can see presented here are all the major sectors where we know the UK does have good strengths and where there is a demand for our products and services in Japan. So that's the search by industry navigation. The step-by-step guide is more orientated to helping you at whichever part you are on your journey. So if you're at the early stages where you're just looking at why to do business in Japan and looking at early stage research and things like that, there's options for getting started. And then you can see there's various options at a much more detailed stage if you want help protecting your intellectual property, or if you're looking to recruit somebody in Japan, or thinking about acquiring a company or franchising. We've got options for all those different points on your journey to help you. So all of these little bullet points you can see, you can click on any of those and they are links through to more detail on your journey. I also want to bring your attention to our podcast series, because this is growing and this is proving one of the most popular areas of content. You can see we're up to podcast number 26 at the moment, and we've got podcasts on all the different sectors. You can see some on food and drink, and I think there's quite a few companies joining us today in the food and drink sector. So lots of different areas of podcasts. They're typically sort of 20-minute podcasts, and you will gain a lot of information either on the particular sector that you're in, or on ideas for market entry and how to go about building your business in the Japanese market. Okay, that's it from me. That's my segment. So thank you very much. You can contact me there, Steve Crane at businesslinkjapan.com, and I'll obviously be available for the Q&A session a little bit later. So thanks for your time, and back to you, Mark.